All right, we are live on Facebook now. Yay! That takes some hoops to jump through, people, to get through there.
It is surprising.
So today we're going to talk about why we don't give ourselves what we want. Heather texted me this morning. She's like, I don't really have a topic. And I've been thinking about this. I just got back from Costa Rica. Cultures like anything outside of the US is so different. And it's just had me like thinking about some things about life. And I was like, why don't we give ourselves what we want? And so I was like, let's talk about that today. And Heather was like, yes.
So what was your take on that? Because I figured we'd probably be coming from totally different places.
What's my take on
Just
why?
good, like why we don't give ourselves what we want. Or was there something specific that brought that up? Like you weren't giving yourself something, or you saw that, noticed it in other people?
Well, so I've been dreaming of living on a beach. Like that's what I want, right? And then I go to Costa Rica and I'm on a beach for a week. And I was just like, this is so easy, right? Like I just simply had to go book an Airbnb, book a flight, follow through on those things, and I'm on a beach. Like that's so easy. So,
Yeah.
and we think giving ourselves what we want is like so hard.
Yep.
Right. And it's like, why are we making this so hard? Like, this was so easy for me to get here. Like, why am I making money or living on a beach, like these hard things that are in the future? If I really wanted them, I can make it happen today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I told you this, but after I moved here, I was looking through my journals. I don't even remember what I was looking for, but I came across that in my meditations, I kept seeing myself on a beach with my dogs, and I lived there. And, so I wrote down what I was seeing. And then, of course, I just forgot about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, here I am. That's what I'm doing. Like, I don't live right on the beach, but I'm so close.
Right.
I'm an hour and a half from either side, either coast. I can go to pretty much whatever beach I want to. And, but that did not seem possible to me before. I didn't have any idea how that could happen. But yet it happened like that. I mean, from a seemingly bad circumstance too. Like next thing I know, within 24 hours, I'm like, okay, I'm moving to Florida and everything is in process. So, but I was just in this place where I opened up to all the possibilities instead of my thoughts before, which were like, I don't even know, this isn't even possible.
Which is like such a, not you personally, but I just want to like point it out there to the people. Like it's such a bullshit thought.
Yeah.
Right? Like this isn't even possible. It's in the future. It's like we have to come to a place where we are just like so brutally honest with ourselves. The reason I don't have what I want right now is because I am not willing to do what I need to do to get it. That's it.
Yes. Either that or it's not what you really want.
Yeah.
So, like, we tend to use these things against ourselves. We think that we want something, or we think that that thing will make us happy, but we don't really take the time to even think it through if that's actually what we really want or not. And then we end up using it against ourselves. So I think that that's the other side of that, is just not even really taking the time to be clear on what we want and creating what we want. And I think this goes back to, like, we're told these steps to take in life, and then we get to where we've got the house and the kids and the degree, and then like, all right, what now? Like, we don't know what to do. And so then it's time to start creating and understanding.
And I think too, I think we like the idea of like wanting something and then bullshitting ourselves and saying like that's hard, or it's going to take a while, or it's impossible, right? So then we can just dream, like not even dream, like we can stay in fantasy land.
Well, you don't have to experience the discomfort that you would have to go through to figure out how to make it happen. Just because it happened for me to move here, I had to go through a lot of discomfort for that move, a lot, intense discomfort, and a lot of going through my faith in myself that I was going to be able to sustain it once I got here, and that I was going to be able to sustain the lifestyle that I envisioned for myself here, that I would be able to keep working on creating my business and make it work without any external support. And so that was a ton of discomfort. And like, we've talked about it many times. Like, I wanted to quit like every single day. I had to redecide. And I think that that's another thing. Like, people don't realize it's like a diet. You're redeciding 1,000 times a day that you want to stay on the diet, that you're committed to not going to McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's not a one-time decision. And it's the same thing with all the other things that we want that are worth having. We have to commit to it over and over again, and commit to sitting in the discomfort of it.
Yeah. And it's super interesting in my life right now. Like if you can move to a place where you're just kind of the observer of your life, and you can see like how, of course, as coaches, we're like how your thoughts create your results. We both are spiritual people, and I believe there's also a divine part of this too, right? Yeah. And you just watch it, and it's like, holy cow, like this started before Costa Rica. So I'm going to tell myself, because I think this is it was a learning moment for me. So we left for Costa Rica on Monday. Sunday, I am checking us into our flights, right? And printing off the email for the rental car. And you have to have a health pass to get into Costa Rica, filling that out, right? And making sure I have all my documents. And as I'm going through this, like the health pass to get into Costa Rica requires you to have, they want your airline seat. So I get mine, I put it in, and like, this is like a process, right? And my brain is like, oh, really? Like, this is confusing. Like, I get to Jeremiah's, and I'm like looking for his like confirmation number for his flight. Can't find it. Can't find it. I'm like, shit, like I know I booked both flights when I booked the car rental. This is the day before we leave. And I go back to that email, that receipt. I only booked one flight.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so like I feel my body like getting stressed, and like I'm still in control of my brain, but my body's like, oh my God, this is the day before, like you've paid all this money. Now you take this trip by yourself. And in my mind, I'm like, I figure this out. I can figure this out. Like I have help. I have trip insurance. I can cancel it. Like nobody else is coming to save you, Kim. You've got to figure this out. And so I looked on American Airlines, exact same flights. I'm like, I don't care how much it is, I'm booking it. And I book him the same flight. So he's on the same flight with me there and back, thank God, right? And like, the crisis is averted. We're both going to Costa Rica now. And like, I could feel all the stress in my body. And I was like, let's go take a walk. Like, I need to move this energy.
Yes.
And that was the beginning of this like insightful journey as to why we don't have what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And why, like, I wanted my husband to go to Costa Rica with me. And I figured that shit out like in an hour. Right. And I was willing to pay whatever and do whatever I needed to do to make that happen. And so I thought, like, why am I not like this in all areas, especially my business? And I saw the thought, it was like, I just keep doing the same thing over in my business over and over and over and getting the same stupid results. Right. And it's like the thought popped up, like, I don't know how to market well on Instagram. And I was like, why haven't the hell you've gone and Googled that? Like, you figure out things that you really want, and it's like, oh, I'm afraid of success. And that's why, like, I don't have what I want. And so then this just was like the whole time in Costa Rica, like, I'm watching myself and thinking, like, I could live on a beach right now if I wanted to, but I obviously don't want to because I'm not figuring out how to do it. And I just need to own that stuff and quit pretending that I can't have the things that I want. Only special people get the things that they want, or it takes a long time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that was a couple of the things that I thought about was the limiting beliefs that we have that we don't realize until we're observing our thoughts. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like that life is hard, there's limited resources, I can't have what I want. And it's not going to be those exact thought. It might be those exact thoughts, but a lot of times it's a lot sneakier.
Yeah.
And I can still remember when my ex and I were talking about me quitting my career. I was going to take a break. We didn't even know like how it was going to happen financially. I mean, it was a huge change in our financial situation. I had a lot of fears about it, and there was certain things that need to happen. We were trying to sell our lake house and it had not sold yet, so it had to be rented. And I was just so scared to give myself what I wanted because all I could think of was all the things that were going to go wrong if I did it. And finally, I just did it. And somehow it worked out, like literally a wing and a prayer. The lady that managed our lake house stole the rent money and filed bankruptcy and moved away. And, but then it ended up selling a month later. But there was like all these different spots where I could have given up what I wanted. And I just kept pushing through, which really prepared me for this level of once I moved here and all the stuff that I had to push through. But it was like a couple months later, you know, my ex-husband he got laid off, and so now here we are from two incomes to we're living on unemployment, and we're you living on our savings, of course. And I could have given up what I wanted and said, oh, it's not meant to be. I'm not, but I was like, I just was so determined to have what I wanted. And it's funny though, like as I'm telling these stories of how hard I worked and how much I dug in to give myself what I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
like I've been doing it the last couple of years, there's still so much room in my life for growth when it comes to giving myself what I want. Like I was thinking about what I'm not giving myself right now that I want. And I haven't taken a real vacation, like the vacation you just took,
Yeah.
since I quit my job. Like
It's
I
been
mean,
how long?
I when I was living in Oklahoma, I would come here to visit family.
Yeah.
And last year after I moved here, the only places that I went was like to visit my daughter and to deal with stuff with her with rehab. And then, you know, this year I'm going to take a vacation after my surgery. Like as soon as I'm healed enough, I'm taking a damn vacation. I'm giving that to myself because I'm sitting here listening. If I can make all these other things happen, I can make a friggin' vacation happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It is. And it's like it's crazy how we just self-sabotage ourselves and just live in like this limited place that's just so unhappy, you know? Like every day just being like, I wish my life was different. I wish my life was different. Like, guess what? Like you have an expiration date. And
Yeah.
every day you wake up, you can tick off one more day is closer to that expiration date.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, obviously, more than ever, that's like I'd been living with this thought of like I'm going to live to be 100. I'm almost 50. I've got 50 more good years. And then when I get diagnosed with breast cancer, I'm like I'm going to live through it obviously, but it was that first time in my life where I've come to grips with like, oh, maybe it's, maybe I don't have 50 years left. I better make the most of the years that I have. And that's pushed me even harder to give myself what I want and open up to ways that I am holding myself back and thinking outside the box for things, and seeing like how like quitting things gives us instant relief,
Yeah.
right? It takes us out of the discomfort. We can always come up with great justifications for why we need to quit. Like I could easily quit my business and say it's just so much easier to go work for somebody. Like I have that thought all the time. It's easy to go work for somebody else. I know exactly how much money I'm going to make all of the time. And I'll never have to worry about insurance or anything like that. But then I'm like, that's quitting on giving myself what I want. What I want is working. It gets better all of the time. But my
Mhm.
brain's still like, oh, you should probably quit.
Yeah.
Just thank God I don't listen to it, or I call you and you're like, Heather, stop.
Right. I mean, like, and here's like another great example. We did a podcast, Dr. Carmen and I did a podcast episode this morning, and we were interviewing this couple, which visually they look like they got all their shit together, right? Like, I don't know them, they do. And like, I've noticed since I got off that podcast episode this morning, my mind has been like, they know how to do it. They have thousands of followers on Instagram. They're living what you want to live. They figured out how to do it. You haven't, so you're doing it wrong. And why, what, like, just quit. You don't have what it takes. If you had what it took, you'd be where they're at, where they are at.
It'd be easy.
And like, it feels so real, right? So, like, when you guys are watching this, like, your brain's not going to be like, just quit. It's going to like gather this evidence of like, see, it's easier for them. Just go, like, you don't have what it takes. Go ahead and quit. Go figure out something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I observe my thoughts, like it's so obvious to me that one day my life, I might literally one day be like, this is amazing. Everything is great. Like everything is working exactly how I wanted it to. And I can't believe how amazing everything is. In the maybe even the same day, but usually it's the next day. It's like nothing is working. Everything is awful. What am I going to do? There's like no middle ground. It's either totally amazing or I'm in hell and nothing's ever going to work again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of that, like, is our thoughts. And then I'm also inclined to think, especially when we have that biggest swing, that's like, it's hormones and neurotransmitters too. Like, as I enter into this whole premenopause world, like, one day I'm like super irritated with the world. The next day I'm like very depressed. And the next day I'm fine. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I've just been on 3 different train rides in 3 days.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it just, I don't know. Right now, I'm giving myself permission to have those extremes because one, I didn't feel for so long. I was so numb. And I'm like, all right, there's a lot of things happening in your life right now. I'm dealing with my daughter's addiction and breast cancer. And it's like, why wouldn't I have extreme
Yeah.
emotions? The and not and just kind of being able to make fun of myself and laugh at myself that I'm on this constant roller coaster, and that like and actually being glad that I'm feeling those things because something happened with my daughter a couple weeks ago, and in order to manage the situation and not meet her where she was at, I went numb. It was just like this went right back to the way I used to be. And then it took me, I'm still working on getting out of that numbness. It's like I've had to work, and I think I didn't ever want to live that way again. I'd rather have these extreme emotions that really tell me what I want in life and what matters to me, and help me, like if I get angry about something, I never used to get angry, then I'm like, I'm angry because I'm sticking up for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before I wouldn't have gotten angry and I wouldn't have stuck up for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have those signals.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that in and of itself helps me know more about what I want and what's important to me so that I can go after it and give it to myself.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, you told me about that book, The Secret Language of Feelings.
Yeah.
Like, just paying attention to that, like, that anger is like, we think it's so bad. And it's like, no, it's just, it's giving you enough courage to be like, no, I'm not going to be treated this way.
Right. This is unfair.
Yeah.
And how do I make it fair? Like, do I give this person access to my life? anymore? Do I want to think about it differently? It just opens up all of your options to have those extreme emotions even available to you. I call them extreme. Maybe they're not. I don't know. I'm a person who never really felt emotions before and I'm just getting more in touch with them. Maybe it's not that extreme. But for me and what I'm going through it is, and it's just important to me to be open to, okay, this is just part of the process.
Yeah. And it you tell me, does it take the power away from those emotions? In the sense of like, you know how a lot of us are like afraid to feel things.
Mm-hmm.
And like we're afraid to be disappointed.
Yeah.
And then like when you're starting to feel all these emotions, like, oh, it's disappointment. It's just on the spectrum of emotions. It's another one to choose from. And like it's fine. It's fine for me to be disappointed. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with failure. That's probably fear of failure and what we would make it mean about ourselves is the biggest reason I think that we don't give ourselves what we want or don't go after what we want. Because I had a totally different mindset about failure before I started coaching and learning other ways to think about it, and not just like looking at it as like, oh, I just learned how not to do that. Instead of like failure is this doom, means you can't do it, means you're never going to figure it out. Instead, or like that there's something wrong with me, instead of, okay, I just learned on how not to do that. What's the next way that I'm going to try? What's the next thing I'm going to try? And it's a totally different, it just makes it easier to try things. You can give yourself a break and you're not going to beat yourself up every time things don't go exactly as planned. It doesn't even have to be, you don't even have to use the word failure.
Right. Right. Like I love that we're reading that book Mindset by Carol Dweck, because now like I just think of failure like when I'm thinking of it in that way of like what it can mean about me, like my brain automatically pulls up like you're just in a fixed mindset, because fixed mindset people think failure has to do with their character.
Right.
Growth mindset people are like, awesome, I got to learn a new lesson.
Right. Yeah. And without failure, I wouldn't have learned to push myself to higher levels of like, not wanting to experience that again or learning. I think about like in college, I was one of those people who it was just easy for me in high school, just show up, get good grades. College, it wasn't like that. That's how I started it off because that was what I was used to.
Right.
And then I, ended up having to drop a couple of classes and I was like, oh, I need to learn a different way to approach this. But that skill, my dog's having a bad dream and he's just kicking everything. But that skill really has helped me throughout life. Like I would have never, had I not struggled and failed, I wouldn't have built the skill of working hard at something that I wanted. And I wouldn't have had that to build on. Like if everything was easy, I would have given up my business like day one.
We would be so bored too, you know,
Yeah. We just be
like
looking for trouble.
just because it's just like if it comes easy, like it doesn't have as much value to us, you know. But like I look back on this whole vacation thing and like it was a wonderful vacation, but some of the highlights is like that I didn't book my husband's flight, right? Because it was like I got to see myself figure it out. And I was so proud of myself for figuring it out, not letting my brain take me off into chaos. So I just dug in, and like that's one of the biggest gifts from that vacation. And that was like the heart I felt.
Yeah, and you could have easily said, we're not spending the extra money. It's too expensive. We're going to have to cancel the trip and reschedule it, or beat yourself up the whole time because you spent the extra money, or like not spend money on your trip because, like all the things that we do to ourselves that are ridiculous and steal our joy.
Yeah.
But you didn't do any of those things.
No, no. I just kind of ripped his ass for because you go from dollars to colonials, and like the math is like $1 is like 1,000 colonels. It's like so confusing. And like he would sometimes tip like a $20 tip because of conversion. And I'm just like, and I would rip his ass over that. And it's like, doesn't matter. Like you didn't book his flight. Seriously.
He almost wasn't here to tip these people.
Right. Right.
And it would not have been the same.
Right.
So, is there anything else you want to add? I wrote some of this stuff down, so I was going to summarize some of why we don't give ourselves.
No, summarize, please.
Oh, one thing I wrote down that we didn't talk about was the need for instant gratification too. Like we don't want, because it's not easy. Well, I guess we did kind of talk about that, but because it's not easy, we don't go after it. We choose something else that's easier. And so we just shortchange ourselves basically because of that. Wanting relief from discomfort. So like there's discomfort either way. There's a discomfort of not giving yourself what you want, but then there's the discomfort of going after it. And then sometimes we get that far and then we quit, which gives us instant relief.
About weight loss when you talk about that.
Yeah.
Like the first thing that comes to mind is weight loss.
Yes.
And like people go, it's so hard. Well, it's hard because you don't want to eat differently. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is the choice of how do you want to feel when you lose a pound, or, you know, like changing your thoughts about being deprived.
Yeah.
Like what are you really being deprived of? Like, you know, and having the compelling reason. Like I've given up sugar since I got my diagnosis, and I had been thinking and talking about giving up sugar for a while because I knew I'd feel better. My energy levels way up. But once I had that compelling reason, it's really been easy.
Yeah.
You know, like I gave it up in February and I can't even remember what it was now. I ate sugar once. But it was not like there's no deprivation when I'm like, this is saving my life. Like, this is good for me. This is, you know, I just have a totally different outlook on it. But in the past, you know, when those deprivation thoughts kick in and it's like, oh, well, I can give up the sugar, but then I can wear all the cute clothes that I want to wear. Or it's easier to work out, or I can live longer or feel healthier, or whatever. But it's like, even weight loss is mindset.
Yeah. I think you just blew some people's minds with that.
Well, maybe we'll do one just on weight loss. Because it's always such a good example because everybody can relate to it. Even people who are at their ideal weight still sometimes struggle. It's a huge struggle just to stay at that weight even. And it's a constant battle that
all of us, like you said, like I've always been thin, right? And like I want a 6-pack. I have to do certain diet things to get that, right? And I still struggle with it. It's like, do I really want that? Do I really?
And for you, it's you have to eat, like you have to put the time into
meal prep.
Yeah, and making those things, or you just don't eat what you need.
Yeah, because I'm supposed to be eating four proteins a day. And if I don't meal prep, I'm only getting 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to get out of that cycle right now too, where I'll eat a protein shake because it's easy. I mean, I have ingredients and I'll add some spinach and stuff to it. And then like I'm starving by late afternoon, but I didn't even schedule time to eat, to prepare anything to eat for lunch. And so by the time dinner rolls around, I am starving.
Yeah.
And then I might not, even if I have plans, not eat and then be like, well, I'll just eat another protein shake when I get home at 10 o'clock at night. And like, that is not like, that's my next barrier to overcome, is really putting the value on that and taking care of giving myself what I want. Right. It's the same, but I have to look at it as a valuable activity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of thinking like, this is just a pain in the ass. I wish, like, isn't there something that you can just give me to eat so I don't have to stop what I'm doing, that I'm having fun? And, you know, because I don't like to cook that much.
Yeah.
But it's just another way.
Real.
It is. All right. So quitting provides instant relief. And then there's our beliefs, which beliefs go really deep. They will, our brain will search out a way to create our beliefs every time. And if we're not able to observe our beliefs, and if they're things like, I can't have what I want, or life is hard, or everything has to be a struggle, we will create that over and over again without ever realizing it. I think that's just so much beauty in being able to observe. You could have easily created that with your trip.
I just had a little mind blown moment because that belief, right, that I can't have what I want, doesn't cover everything in my life. I can't have what I want when it comes to money and success. That belief is like swirled around those things. Everything else is I can have exactly what I want. Like, I didn't think about this trip like I can't have what I want. Like, that wasn't even an option. Everything else in my life is like I get what I want, except that little area where that belief is wrapped around. Super interesting.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
And then another thing I wrote down is fear of being vulnerable and taking risk, and because of what you make failure mean, or even being vulnerable in love. Everybody wants love, but even being vulnerable in that to get what you want. Like, so many people are afraid to just even open up.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, it could be taken in so many different directions, but I think it's important to just really observe your thoughts. Like, do you really want this thing? And then what are you thinking about why you can't have it? And then switching that around. Like, what can you do to make it happen? How can you give this to yourself? I don't know why it's almost like a badge of honor that you that you live the hardest life. And I want to be like, my life is so easy.
Yeah.
I have it written on my bathroom mirror right now. Let it be easy.
Yeah.
Remind myself. Like, I could literally let having breast cancer be easy. Like, which is not minimizing anybody's journey. This has not been easy for me, but I can let it be easy at times.
Yeah. And
It's
like
just a
the
thought.
thought you just had that like you're not minimizing it and it has been hard is what we've been conditioned. Because if we say it's easy, then it disrespects other people's. Like, maybe not. Maybe like our conditioning that this disrespects other people's hardness is really just perpetuating it for them instead of saying, like, no, it doesn't have to be hard for you.
Yeah.
Like, it gets to be easy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still wrapping my brain around that for myself with this situation. I can like let different pieces of the journey be easier. You know, I started off like crying at every doctor's appointment. I left the last one laughing, you know, like, and, you know, so there's different pieces of it that I can let be easier. It's a process though. It's like this opening up this new world to me at a different level of how I can let things be easy in my life, which is another part of giving myself what I want, right? I want things to be easier.
Like, you could totally like revolutionize like how, let's just only talk about women with breast cancer approach breast cancer. Like, who else but you? Like, you have this greatest gift of being like a life coach trained from like one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best life coaching schools, right?
Right.
Like, you have the tools to make breast cancer easy and just be an example of what is possible for all these other women. Like,
I think when I get to the other side of it, because the big difference for me, I was thinking about this yesterday, like I can sit with a parent who's dealing with addiction in all of their pain and not that it doesn't affect me, but I can still maintain full composure and really hold space for them in a really deep way and not be swayed by it in any way, like really fully be able to show up for them. But I can't do that yet. Like when I'm around somebody who's in a lot of pain because of their breast cancer, I have to be careful not to take on their stuff That's never even a concern for me when it comes to dealing with somebody with addiction. So when I get to the other side of it, I'll have so much more to offer. Like right now, I'm just sharing my experience and my story, but I'm thinking about all the time, like, how can I help people through that next?
Yeah, you will. It's not even like a planning how, it's like I just
Just gonna
will.
happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it gets to be easy.
Well, this was a great topic. I almost didn't show up today. I'm just going to tell on myself because I woke up feeling like, ugh. But I went to the gym and I moved my body like you were talking about earlier so that
Yeah.
I could get my brain engaged and show up here. Like we've got to go through those little tricks
Yeah.
to show up for ourselves. Like I wanted to do this, but I almost didn't give it to myself, right?
There you go. All right, friend. I'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.